Hey guys, Shaman here, back with another deck profile, this time featuring one of my favorite sets in Weiss Charts. This is Yuru Camp, or Yuru Camp is one of my favorite manga anime projects of all time, and really happy to showcase this deck. I've been practicing a lot of Yuru Camp. If you've been on like SoCal Weiss Twitter, you've seen I'm on a tear with Yuru Camp. I think the deck that I'm about to feature is crazy good. This is probably, I wasn't a big believer of this deck until I talked to some friends in Houston when I was competing there at BCS. Shout outs to Hansen and Jason for just kind of talking me through this deck and kind of convincing me to try it. And after I tried it and now I've optimized it, so now Hansen, Jason, if you're watching this video, here is the sauce, the 50 sauce, like the 50, my exact 50 I think is the sauce. I expect to see this deck pretty much this exact 50 or maybe like 48, 49 of this deck just be like the best deck. One of the best decks in the JP meta. I think this deck is a top contender, like top 3 decks in JP meta right now. I think that deck is unstoppable, and basically decks have to be checking for like Yuru Camp and just like the craziness that Yuru Camp has to offer. So yeah, anyways, I'm a huge Yuru Camp fan. I didn't like season 3 that much, which is why I didn't like go for like SPs because I didn't like the art, but I did open the Nadeshiko AGR. However, friendship with Nadeshiko is over because Nadeshiko's sister Sakura is now my best friend. So I am playing 4 copies of the Sakura level 0 alarm, and this is one of the 2 kind of key pieces of this deck. I believe Sakura is like the 2nd best card in Yuru Camp as like a set in whole, and so this deck is one of the decks that can abuse Sakura very well. So this is, yeah, if you guys don't know, this is bar level 1, chest level, bar level 1, door level 3. Okay. Alright, so let's go into the deck profile with 4 of this Sakura. This Sakura has one effect, it is the alarm effect, and has no other effect, so on field it's just 1500. But if it's at the top of your clock, you have a continuous effect. All your characters get on attack. You can look at the top 2 cards of your deck and you can rearrange them. So it's not crucial. You don't get to like mill any cards or move any cards like out of your deck, but you do get to rearrange their order, which is really important. So at like the worst, you get to choose between 2 cards as your trigger, which is really good. If you see a climax and you don't want to trigger the climax, then you just always keep moving it to the 2nd, and that way you can always keep the climax, like the card, right off from the top of your deck. So at worst, if you have this on top of your clock, you know, if you have a climax on top of your deck, it's gonna be there for a guaranteed cancel on your opponent's turn. That's like at worst. But this deck, especially with the 2 climax combos in this deck, work with this Sakura so well that we basically want to always see the Sakura. Like, I'm salvaging Sakura every turn. I want to make sure I have a Sakura in hand basically every single turn of the game. For our level 1 combo, we clock a Sakura before we combo. For our level 3 combo, we clock a Sakura before we combo. So we basically always want to see the Sakura. On release, this card was dirt cheap, and then Japan realized that this card was broken, and so this card is now expensive. So not the base rating, the SR is expensive. So I have 1, but yeah, I would like to pick up more, but card's expensive now and out of stock. Anyways. Alright, moving on, we are playing 3 copies of this really cute Nadeshiko, and this card, a lot of people play at 4, I have cut it down to 3, I will explain to you my reasoning right now. So this Nadeshiko, on attack, you discard a card, and you can look at up to top 4 cards of your deck, and add a Yuru Camp character from the top 4. Now, this card is fantastic, obviously, we've seen this in like Ayakashi Triangle, and obviously, ways to get deck speed is really good, especially since our level 1 combo doesn't give a lot of deck speed. We do want to have this card basically always in rotation. We always want to have access to it. It's a really great turn 1 play, pretty much our best level 0 turn 1 play. Now, the reason why I don't run this at 4 is because I believe this card is extremely bad diminishing value after the 2nd and 3rd ones, so that the 4th one I think is just really, really bad. Because this card has to attack in order to get the utility effect, and every turn we can only attack with 3 characters, which means we are never able to attack with more than really 3. And generally speaking, we want to attack with like climax combos and also bigger cards to deal with our opponent's board. So it's pretty unusual to be able to use the last one, right? And then, so we usually try to level them, but we also have other cards that we want to level that are green, and we don't always get the privilege of leveling our ideal level target for green. And so if we have too many of this card, it will eventually just kind of clog our hands. If we draw it for a turn in a late game situation, it's just not going to be very good. So the way I think about it is like a lot of decks are running 4 of this card as just like for consistency. But if I want a 4th copy of a card to help me mill, rather than running a 4th Nadeshiko, I think it's important to run something like this, which is a top check 4. So I run the top trick 4. So I do have still 4 cards that help me mill up to 4 cards. Except this one activates during main phase, so I have a lot more flexibility. Now, if I want a card to help me discard climaxes, because this deck can climax flood, or discard climaxes, then I run the clock bomb with the discard climax salvage. So I still have 4 cards that help me, discard climaxes and hand fix. This one is also during main phase, which means that the climax to discard, I can get a card that I can play immediately. So rather than going all in on this card, I have other cards that help me have the utility effects of this card, both the mill and like the hand fix, but these activate during main phase rather than like this attack phase. So this is kind of like the 4th copy of this card in terms of the effects that it does, and that way I can cut one of this card so that we're not breaking on like cards that don't actually help us like during the main phase, which I think is a pretty big weakness of this deck. If we if we open too many of this card and like we have too many of this card in our hand, and it's actually pretty bad. Or like if we draw it in a late game situation, like I would much rather draw any of those other cards, basically. Yeah, so we're on 3. Alright, we're playing 3 copies of the Nadeshiko Brainstorm. You can argue to play 4 because this card has effect when you trigger it if you already have one on board, but I think 3 is fine. Alright, so Salvage Brainstormer, pretty straightforward. And then whenever you trigger a climax or another copy of itself, when it's already on the board, you can top check to rearrange and then give a character 1k power. So that's really, really strong. In this deck, it's really crazy because of how this works specifically with the alarm. So the way this works is like when we attack with the alarm, we know the top 2 cards of our deck. And then if we trigger a climax, like we see there's a climax in the top 2, then after triggering a climax, we get to look at the next 2. This is really relevant when we trigger bar. So let's say I look at the top 2 cards of my deck, I see a bar. That means but I know what the second card is, so I know what I'm blind stocking with the bar. So I trigger the bar goes to my hand, I blind stock, and then the Nadeshiko activates, that I can see the next 2 cards of my deck. So like I get basically perfect knowledge, I know what the blind stock is from the bar, and I get even more knowledge with the Brainstorm. So without the Brainstorm, I wouldn't be able to do that. That's why this Brainstorm is really good, and the on-field effect is really powerful with climaxes and with Sakura. So like they work really well together. Yeah, pretty straightforward. You basically like want to have one on board as soon as possible. But by your level 1 turn, you really want to have one because of that kind of synergy with the Sakura. Alright, playing 3 Rikis. I feel like I have come to this new trend of playing 3 Rikis in my deck rather than 4. I just think that like, unless the Riki is doing something extremely important for the deck, a lot of decks just don't need that 4th Riki anymore, especially in the early game. If there's other cards that I'd rather run at level 0 that help us in a level 0 game, then I can consider cutting Rikis, especially if I also have like drop search and stuff like that. So a lot of times what I'm starting to do in decks is I run 3 Riki and like a 1-up drop search. So I still have 4 search effects, but the drop search is just a little bit more flexible and able to search other things besides just level 1s and lower. Riki is still really good though, and we definitely do want to have the Riki option. The Riki second effect is mandatory. At the start of your climax phase, choose one of your characters, give it 1k power. So she's also a decent back row card. In a pinch, we can pretty much like, we play the Riki, and then like if it lives or if we clean cut it, we can just park it in the back row because our back row is not really too important in this deck. Alright, now let's go over the 1-ups. So we have a lot of 1-ups in this deck, as I really like the utility spread options in Yuru. So we got clean cut, Hana stock, and then pay to salvage, double drop search, so on play on death. We run the climax swap. This is going to be the swap with deck, and it's also free runner. This is from the TD. Then we're running a bouncer, top 4 add 1, and clock bomb, and discard climax salvage. Alright, so clean cut is just really good. Search target off of the Riki, especially in early game. If we're going first, we attack once, and then second turn we're still at level 0 and have a Riki. I usually go Riki, clean cut, brainstorm. That's kind of like a really good setup. Allows us to have the brainstorm attack, get 3 attacks, still keep the brainstorm the following turn, and then we can go into our level 1 combo. So clean cut's really good. I think it's very strong. Also a 3-5 with 2 or less stock, which means it's a pretty good going first play as well. I think the 1-up is really good. Alright, this Rin Hana stock is really strong. This is probably one of my favorite Hana stock profiles overall. I basically, this specific Hana stock profile I think is like my favorite now. This one in like 3-5, I guess 3-5 beater is also pretty good, but this one's really crazy because it's a Hana stock and then it's on play, pay to salvage. So the way this works is that if you want the stock, you can just Hana stock. If you want the salvage, you can pay to salvage. But if you want to salvage, but you don't want to pay 2, you can hand a stock and then pay 2 salvage. So it's like pay 1, ditch 1 salvage. So if you use the effects combined, it's like a drop salvage. But then you also get to do each part of the drop salvage separately. So you have a lot of control over like how you want to drop salvage, right? Which is really cool. I think that's really, really neat. Now, like the downside is that you can't drop salvage if you don't have any stock. Or sorry, you can't drop salvage if you don't have any stock. But like that was the case like anyways, right? So like basically this is just really, really cool. I love this kind of effect. I think this effect is crazy good because yeah, effectively it's a drop salvage that also acts as a hand of stock and also acts as a pay 2 salvage. And because both effects only lose 500 power, it's also 2k base. So it's like decently big for a utility card, which is like fantastic. Alright, double drop search. This is from the TD. On play, on death. The on death effect is really important in this deck with synergy with our 2-2 event, which I'll talk about once we reveal a 2-2 event. But otherwise, you can think about this as like your 4th rekey with some added upside. Alright, climax swap. Why do I run the swap from deck climax swap as opposed to there's a, I think it's an on play on death, but there's like a climax swap from waiting room. The reason we play swap from deck is there's twofold reasons, right? First reason is because we at level 3 we have a card that can help us salvage climaxes, but obviously if we don't have the right climax in the waiting room, we can only salvage the wrong climax, and then when we're trying to swap to the right climax, the climaxes are all on deck. Otherwise we'd be able to salvage them. So this works really well with the level 3 Chiaki that salvages climaxes. So at level 3, if we have the Chiaki in this, we basically guarantee get the right climax no matter where the climax is, as long as a climax is available to us, right? Second reason is because of the way the climax spread works in this deck. We have a bar at level 1 and we have a door at level 3. We're generally trying to swap to the bar climax in the mid game, and that means that we have a door in our hand. Now, if we have the bar in waiting room and we swap with the waiting room, that means that any bars in our deck are still in our deck. But if we use this to swap the door in our hand with a bar in deck, that means the door is going back into our deck. So we have, if we're triggering a climax, we're triggering a door rather than a bar. And I think triggering door is just a way better on like repeat combos. So the first turn of combo, you know, triggering bar is great because then the second turn we get a bar combo again. But like especially at level 2 when we're trying to set up for the late game, I'd much rather trigger door, because not only does that give us a guaranteed salvage of a card we need for like level 3, but it also means that the door is now in our stock, and now we can pay it out with Chiaki on our final turn to guarantee have the climax available. So that's a lot of reasons for why I think the Rin is just a better climax swap in terms of like swapping from deck. And then this Rin also has the added upside of being a pretty good turn 1 play. It's a runaway runner, so like with this and this, we have like 2 more good turn 1 plays alongside, you know, 3 of this. And I like to increase as many good turn 1 plays in the deck as possible. So that's why I think Rin is the best climax swap to run. We only run 1. Could run more climax swaps, but I think the 1 is fine. We were running 4 bar anyways, it's okay. Alright, running 1 bouncer, pretty much obligatory. Bouncers are like kind of really too important in this current meta. In our deck, especially because of the way the Nadeshiko works, it's like if she gets memory kicked or if there's interactions for the Nadeshiko, it could be really bad for us because she just need to restand, and so like if she's not on the board, she can't restand. So bouncer is pretty good. I think it's pretty important. We kind of talked about these 2 cards when I was talking about the Nadeshiko top 4, but basically this is more on-demand mill, and because it sends itself from stage to waiting room, it clears up zones. So our early play healer is 4 or other. This helps us double early play heal and do shenanigans with the early play heal. I'll talk about this a little later when we show off like the early play heal and stuff that you can do. And then the clock bomb. I mean, clock bomb removal at level 0 is always really great. We can search it pretty reasonably with the rekey and the drop search. And then it hand filters climaxes out of our hand and salvages specific cards, which is something that this deck kind of lacks. We really want like on-demand salvage in a pinch if we can, and so this gets us to it. This could be like a Rico. I thought about Rico. I think I actually cut the Rico for this because I like the clock bomb effect a lot. And for the most part, like I feel like in this deck the Rico is not really gonna add. I mean, it's how do I say it? A lot of times I just want some very specific cards and not like, I'm not trying to look for like a 0. I would like, if I'm trying to discard climax for a specific card, I would like to be able to grab like anything I want, and Rico can't grab everything I want, whereas this, you know, if I have the climax, I basically get whatever I want. So I think that's really good. Alright, so that's my 0 lineup. We are on a lot of zeros. I believe this is 20. Let's see, 10, 14, 16, yeah, 20 zeros. 20 is pretty standard. I like 20 zeros in all of my decks. In this deck, you kind of don't want that many zeros, but you're pretty okay with having zeros because again, your alarm allows you to choose whether or not you use the zeros like in the late game. You'll see what I'm talking about later. Alright, so let's show off the level 1 combo. This is Chiaki. Not my favorite character, honestly. I think she's my least favorite character out of the 5 main girls, but she's got the best level 1 combo, so what do you gotta do? Chiaki combo, during your turn plus 3k, and when it reverses a battle opponent and you have the bar in play, you can blind stock one and then reveal the top card of your deck, and then salvage a Yuru character equal to the reveal level or lower. So the on reverse is, you know, obviously they can deny it if your opponent's playing a lot of ways to deny it, but this deck still gets a lot of resources pretty freely anyway, so like it's not that big of a deal if they deny you. You don't even need to resolve that many Chiakis for this deck to just kind of go nuclear because of how much resources she gets when she gets the reverse. Like you get a stock and a hand, so like just even resolving 1 is already like pretty good, and then like resolving 2 is basically all you need for this deck to just feel really good. And then, you know, you just kind of go for like 1 and 2s and 3s, you know, like you can do like 2s every turn and until late game, and you're just gonna be swimming in advantage. I love level 1 bar combos, generally speaking. If I have to play a bar combo, I want it to be on level 1 because of how easy it is to loop. And certainly Chiaki makes life really easy with the looping. Now the next card we're playing, oh man, this card is so good because of Sakura. This is the Mei. She's like one of the newer characters in Season 3. If we get a Season 4, we'll see a lot more of her because she joins the girls at their high school. And currently in the manga, she's like, you know, they move on to the 2nd year. And these are like, she's like the new 1st year. But yeah, she's pretty cute. And her combo, her card effect is really good. The on play effect, you choose a card from your clock, add it to your hand, and then choose a card from your hand, put it onto your clock. And so basically, we're grabbing anything we want, and then we're putting Sakura at the top of our clock. Sometimes, if the Sakura is already in our clock, we just pull it out and then put it back on top, and then we activate Sakura effect. So this basically helps us activate alarm every single turn. While helping us sculpt like specific cards out of our clock. You know, some cards that are really hard to grab, like the events, if they're in our clock, we just use the main, we can grab them guaranteed pretty well. It's like freaking good. And then yeah, sometimes if like refresh a climax and it's still there, oh well, we'll just pull it out, no problem, right? So Mei's really great because of that. Also, when she attacks, if you have another Yuru character, she just gets plus 3k, so always 5/5 on attack. So still pulls her weight in terms of like getting like reverses at level 1. And yeah, it's a good card. Recycling Sakura is like the name of the game. It's so important. Alright, let's look at our level 2 non-event cards. First of all, we have the Rin back row, and we have one of the anti-change counters, and we have the stock shuffle. So the stock shuffle is pretty self-explanatory. Anti-change is pretty self-explanatory, although I will say that in this deck specifically, the cost is really good. It is pay 2. Okay, I wish it would sack a character, but pay 2 in this deck is really good because we have a ton of stock to use. Thanks to our Chiaki combo. You don't sack a character, but you do need 4 more on board to play it, which means you can have up to 1 empty space. I really wish it sacked, but it's fine. It's fine for not sacking. It's fine for not sacking because our event sacks for us, which is the best part. All right, let's talk about this Rin. This Rin's kind of important. So really only one effect during your turn. All your other characters get plus X power, where X is equal to the card's soul times 1000. One of the things that this Rin helps us do at level 2 is our Chiakis only hit 8k with climax, but if we want to scale it even further, we can play down this Rin, and then there'll be 10k with climax because there'll be 2 soul. The way this Rin really works well with the Sakura is that once we have the Rin out, anytime we trigger a soul trigger that will increase the soul of the character, the Rin will also increase the power of that character. So let's say we're attacking with the Chiaki, right? She's attacking with the climax combo 10k, but we need to beat like 10-5 or we need to tie 11. We can attack, use the Sakura to look at the top 2 cards of our deck. If we get a soul trigger, we can soul trigger to make it 3 soul. That'll pump it up to 11k power. So it works really well with the fact that like we get to have a lot of like trigger knowledge and soul manipulation in that way. The last reason is because level 3 just has base 3 soul. So you'll see the silliness once we get to our level 3. Alright, time to show off what I consider to be the best card in all of Yuru Camp. And that is Chua Counter. I am playing 4 Chua Counter. I bet you have not seen anybody play 4 of this counter. I've thought about this long and hard. A lot of decks are playing 2. I initially started with 3 because I realized how important this counter is, and currently I am playing 4. So, Chikwa counter. It is a counter. The cost, you must sack one of your on-field characters, and then you can search 3. After searching 3, you discard 1. Very simple. Very broken. It is a counter. So that means that when your opponent attacks one of your characters, you can use this effect, sack the character that's being attacked, so you know, if the character was going to die anyways, you lose it anyways. Like, you're not losing any resources by doing that. Then you search 3 cards from your deck, add them to your hand, then you discard 1. So it is like a search 2 event, which is like a 2-2, normal 2-2 search 2 events are just 2-2 main phase search 2, discard nothing. So you you lose the card from hand and 2 stock and you get 2 cards. So it's like pay 2, get a card. It is effectively pay 2, get a card, except you're discarding a card from your hand and you're searching 3. So like, as long as the character that was on field was going to die anyways, it's like it's just a pay 2 plus 1, right? Except you're searching 3 cards. Like 3 cards from your deck at counter set is insane. That's so much compression. It's, you know how crazy it is when like your opponent, like who's doing like the coordinate combo or like a Jean level 1 combo from Ruby, where they go like triple combo and they go like, all right, on reverse or at the end of attack, I'm gonna search 3 here, and you're just like, wow, they compress so much. We're probably not gonna be able to. They're probably gonna double cancel the next turn because they compress so much, right? That's this card. On a not climax combo, you just play this, and then it's like you use the climax combo to compress 3. It's so insane. Like, Chikwa is so crazy good, and then it means you don't have to sculpt your hand for like your finishers. You can just grab whatever you want. Like, this card basically says, oh, Chiaki like revealed zeros for all her reveals, so now your hand is only zeros. Just kidding. Search like 2 level 3 combos and the 3-2 Chiaki, discard like a random shitter 0 or a climax that you're bricked on, and like voila, you are now sculpted. Like, what? Like, this card just does everything. It sculpts for you, it like compresses you, it stacks a character on board so that you can like play around like reverses and deny stuff. Like, this card does everything. It literally does everything. I've never seen a single card in Weiss do so much as this cute little doggy. He's a Chihuahua. His name's Chikwa. That's why it's called Chikwa counter. Okay, so like, yeah, the one thing about this card is that it's an event, so it's kind of hard to get the hand. That's why I was running 3 and, you know, use May to grab this event, but now I'm running 4 because I just think I want to see Chikwa counter at least once every game. Sometimes I want to see him twice. He's such a good dog. This card is so crazy. The synergy with this specific drop search is that this is on death also drop search. So if I have this on field and I go Chikwa counter, send this to waiting room, I can search 4 cards. I obviously discard 2, but like, it's like pay 3, search 4 cards from our deck, compress 4 times. Like at the like during your opponent's turn, like your opponent has no say around it, right? It's like, it's crazy. With this deck, what's really common too is that like, if we use the Sakura, we're able to stack a climax on the top of our deck. So our first attack is a cancel. So first attack guaranteed cancel, and then from the second attack, bam, search 3. It's just like the easiest triple cancel of your life, really. Like, Chikwa is just broken. So yeah, definitely 4 copies of Chikwa. I think after playing this deck for like a few weeks, I think you play 4. I think if you're not playing for Chikwa, you are not opening yourself to how insane this deck can be, and you're not consistently getting like the perfect games. I think this deck can get the perfect games every single game. You just gotta play 4 copies of the cards that will help you get the perfect games. Alright, playing 2 early play healer. This is the early play Aoi. This used to be 3, but I cut 1 for the 4th Chikwa because I realized at level 2 I would much rather just be playing Chikwas than playing early play heals. And like, this early play heal bounces back to your hand when they front attack it. So like, if you want to like recycle it, it kind of recycles by itself. The third one is like, it's just really diminishing returns in my opinion. So 4 more other early play heal to stock, and then when they front attack this, you can pay 1, bounce back to your hand. Also gets 2k power during your turn. Is this actually really awkward in this deck? Some of the lists in Japan aren't even playing this healer because of how she has anti-synergy with the Sakura. So if the Sakura is on the top of your clock, then obviously when you heal this, you heal the top card of your clock, and now, you know, it's like you don't have the alarm anymore. And the fact that the early play heal condition is 4 more other means that you have to play this at the very end. So like, you can't play this and then play the Mei. Like if you want to play the mage to like then set up your alarm, you have to -1, right? Which is really unfortunate. Which is why in this list, one of the plays with this card is that you can play this, play something else, play this to early play heal, sack this to top check, and then play the mate over the empty board so that you don't have to minus in order to set up your alarm. But you still have to minus stock. And I guess if you don't want to mill, then like that's not a great play. But like if you were gonna mill anyways, then that's like a pretty good play to like get your early play heal value and be able to set up alarm. But it only sometimes comes up. It doesn't come up like every single turn, like game or whatever. Generally speaking, you're just not trying to early play heal that much. If you think about it, you could heal once for 2 stock, and obviously you get the stock back, or you can compress 3 times. Sometimes compressing 3 times is just better than healing, because if compressing 3 times allows you to cancel twice, then that's just better than healing, right? Okay, level 3, showing off the level 3 combo. This is the 3-2 Nadeshiko, right? So when the set first released, everybody thought Rin was going to be crazy good. You know, Rin's the more popular character anyway, so Rins were expensive, Nadeshikos were cheap. And then Japan realized this combo with the Sakura is broken. So now these combos are expensive, and rightfully so, because I think this is just by far one of the best combos. With the Sakura, without the Sakura, this combo is like very bad, and with the Sakura, this combo is like turbo broken. So 3 soul, 9k, and then on play Musashi. So when the damage dealt by this card is cancelled, mill the top card of your deck, burn equal to that card's level +1, and then the climax combo at the end of attack, pay 2, ditch 2, and she restands. So by herself, she is swing for 4, swing for 4, and if any of that 8 damage gets cancelled, you mill the top card of your deck and you burn equal to that level +1. So pretty large numbers, you know, pretty likely to cancel. It's probably not going to be able to stick. Would be crazy if we were able to choose, you know, the card that we trigger so that we could potentially, you know, side a level 3 for 2 damage. And it would be even crazier if we could just set up, you know, let's say we front for a 4, and we would be able to set up the cards on top of our deck so that if that 4 damage cancels, we can mill a 1 or a 2 or even a 3 and burn for a lot, like a very large number instead of like a 0. Or if they're actually at like 3-5, 3-6, then maybe we do want to burn for that 0 or 1. But it would be really crazy if we could just set that up, you know? Yeah. This and this is like, it's unfair, right? Especially because it's a continuous effect. So like your first attack gets it, and then you pay for the restand, and then the restander also gets it. So you have just so much control over your final turn. You can, when I play this deck with a final turn and I have like double or triple combo with the Sakura, I feel like I can literally do anything. I can front for 4, I can front for 5, I can side for 1, I can side for 2. I can side for 2, restand, front for 3, front for 2, or side again for 1. I've done that before, by the way. I've sided twice for 2 and 1. Like I side for 2, and then I side again, it's a 0, but I knew there was a soul trigger on the top of my deck because I checked it earlier. So I like side for 2, and then I side for 1. Like, huh? Like this deck is so crazy, right? And then at any given point, like you know what the next 2, you know what like the card that you're triggering is, and you know what the top card of your deck is. So like at any point, if any of these Nadeshikos cancel, you know where you're milling for the burn. You have perfect information, perfect setup for that. So like, I think if you have this full combo with like triple, which is not too hard to get honestly because of Chua and like the AOE bounce back, you will have overhand. And of course you're attacking 6 times, so anytime you trigger like a bar or a door, that's just a card added to your hand to help pay for like the cost of the restands. I think triple combo plus Sakura, I think they're dead from like 2-1. I sincerely think they're dead from 2-1. It is because you're doing 6 instances of 4. That's modular, right? So they could be 4, they could be 5, they could be like 3 or whatever. Plus 3 Musashi burns that you get to sculpt for. So like if they're far away, you're trying to Musashi burn like burn 3, burn 4, and if you're close, you can Musashi burn for like 1, 2, right? And like you can sculpt that. Like you have a good range of like different levels in this deck, and like you have a really strong control of like how much you're burning. So I really think like if you can do like triple plus like a stock shuffle or something to like decompress them, they're probably like dead from low 2. Like you can absolutely kill from range in this deck. It is very doable. All right. So that's the Nadeshiko combo, and then the last cards in this deck are the 2 of Chiakis. So I don't like this card, but it's like kind of like a necessary evil in my opinion. The reason why I don't like this card is because she does two really strong things, but because one of them is her primary effect, she does that better, and then her secondary effect is not as good. Let me explain. So weiss cards, if you don't know, at level 3 especially, they get a discount for their primary effect. For example, on-play heal, right? On-play heal usually, it's supposed to cost a lot, but because at level 3, you know, you're paying 2 stock, it's a level 3, the first effect that they get is discounted. However, if they get any additional effects on top of that, let's say like if they have to heal again, then you need to pay a cost for it. You can't just get an on-play heal for free twice on the same card, right? So this Chiaki has 2 on-play effects that are both normally discounted effects on other cards. So she has on-play, salvage a climax, and then on-play free summon another card from your hand. Now, generally speaking, salvage a climax, if it's a discounted effect for a level 3, it's going to be pay 1 or sack a character to salvage a climax. And then free summon on play, generally speaking, is free if it's the primary effect of the card. It's like you play it, and then for free you get to summon another character, right? For if you think about like, I don't know, Assault Lily, Fumio, if you think about like the Megumin from Konosuba, like these cards, when you play them, you summon another character from your hand for free. Or like the key card that's like on the climax combo. However, because Chiaki has these 2 primary effects, and the climax salvage one is like the one that's discounted, her on-play summon, you have to discard a card. So it's not free, right? And because it's not free and you have to discard a card, it's actually not that great. Like you're basically, so you're on play, you pay 1, grab a climax, which is really good, right? This deck does not have a great way to grab the door at level 3. This is a really consistent way to grab the door at level 3. I think that's wonderful. However, the summon effect, because you have to ditch 1, it's not free, you're effectively, it's not actually giving you resources. Like generally speaking, the free summon, it's like you get the 2 stock for free, right? It's like you play a 3/2, and then like that allows you to play a different 3/2 for like the total cost is like the same. So you effectively save 2 stock for the card that you played. However, if the card that you played isn't going to be part of your final turn, like if you're not attacking with it or something, then it's like it's not actually better than just playing the 3/2 that you wanted to play for like in the first place, right? However, Chiaki, because you have to discard a card in order to free summon, not only are you you actually have to minus to get the other card out. Do you understand what I mean? Like you have to discard a different card, and then you have to play the card from your hand for free. And then like Chiaki's probably not attacking because she's not part of your final turn combo. Like I would be okay with this if this card actually is going to attack for some reason, but like she's not. So like if you're trying to triple Nadeshiko and Chiaki, you need a bajillion hand. It's like not very likely. Like Chiaki is better for like the lower roll games where we're only doing like double Nadeshiko or like single combos sometimes even, like if we're just playing for like super compression at level 2. She's like better for those kind of games. But if you're trying to if you need to like do the whole high roll like triple combo turns, like you're better off like holding the climax than rely on Chiaki to help you get the climax, right? However, like this deck is so good that like if you are having a pretty even game with your opponent and you're playing for like compression and stuff like that, you only need double combo to win. So like Chiaki is good for those games, and that's why I think she is still pretty good at 2. But I don't like this card as much as like other people like her. I think a lot of people are like super high on her. I think she's just fine. Fulfills like a really good like role in the deck, but I don't think she's like indispensable. Like I personally, if I had another way to get a climax that didn't cost 3 stock, like if I had like if this set had like a pay 1, ditch 1 top 3 like at a climax, something like that, I think I would actually prefer that over like Chiaki because of how expensive Chiaki is. She just like costs a lot of resources. All right, and then of course we got the climax lineup, bar and door. All right, so I don't have my records exactly on me right now, but I believe I've placed I've placed like 4th, 1st, 2nd, 1st in SoCal tournaments playing this deck. My win record with this deck is absurd. It's like oh gosh, I think I've lost like 4 games out of like 15 games with this deck currently. Oh, including practice games, probably even more. Like my win record on this deck is just insane because I think this deck is so good. And if you're like a good player and you know how to like use all the tools that this deck gives you, like the Chico counter, if you know when to go for which tools, like this deck really rewards like skilled play, like the tech, especially my like level 0 utility lineup, like this suite allows me to basically do whatever I want, and like using these cards in the right way to like in the right situations, I think is really key to like doing well with this deck. I remember there's this one game where I had 4 stock and I didn't have the climax in hand, so I had a Chiaki to get the climax, but then but obviously if I Chiaki to get the climax, I don't have stock to play double Nadeshiko, but I still double Nadeshiko combo that game because I like, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to get the climax, I like Chikuwad for this Rin on the turn before, because I think I had a Chikuwad to like get like the Nadeshiko and the Chiaki, and then knowing that I wasn't going to have enough stock, I also Chikuwad for the Rin, and so the following turn I didn't get the climax, so I Chiaki, grabbed the climax, Rin, hand a stock, so I have 4 stocks still, and then I was able to double play Nadeshiko, you know, with the Chiaki like to the discount, right? And then I believe I had like only enough hand to single combo, but I was like, okay, but I'm really compressed right now, so within 3 attacks, or sorry, within 4 attacks, if I can trigger twice, I will have enough resources to do the second combo, and I did, and I won the game because with 4 stock and no climax in my hand, I was able to Chiaki, double Nadeshiko, because I knew that I needed to get the hand of stock in order for like that to happen. So like, yeah, stuff like that is what this deck just gets to do, crazy things, and like you kind of perform like weiss miracles of like, how were you able to do that? And it's like, yeah, it's by the power of like this dog being able to search like everything I want whenever I wanted, starting from level 2. So this deck is extremely fun. I think it's really strong. I think this is like a top tier JP deck, and I'm very happy that Yuru Camp, which was a set that a lot of people were kind of mid on. A lot of people were like, oh, I don't think Yuru Camp's going to be that good. I'm super happy to report and finally find out, yeah, this is actually like a top tier JP deck. I think this is like, I would money match anybody with this deck in a heartbeat. I think I'm super confident. I think this deck is really strong. So yeah, really comfy deck. Hope you guys try it out. And if you guys don't try it out, just know that this deck is kind of terrifying, honestly. So expect, you know, your friends and other people to play this deck at like your local or regional, or like if you have some big tournaments coming up, just know that this deck is lurking in the shadows, and you only have to play against it once to just understand that this deck just kicks butt. Yep. Alright, that's it for this deck profile. I did ramble quite a bit, but that's because I just really love this deck. And yeah, I love this series too. It's very near and dear to my heart. I'm just so happy that this deck is good, man. Alright, and this it for this deck profile. I will have some other content coming up. I think there's a bunch of other deck profiles that I want to do. Not for Yuru Camp, I think, because Yuru Camp is basically, this deck is like the good one, and then the other decks are kind of like, it doesn't really matter how you build them, they all kind of struggle. Yeah, like try to 8 standby and stuff like that. I have some Gochi Usa decks I'm kind of excited to showcase on this channel, so I'll expect some Gochi deck profiles in the near future. With that, that's it for this deck profile. See you guys next time. Bye bye.